All right, all right. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Corey, and this is my guy, Rav. We go by a couple different names, but for people
Yeah,
who
yeah.
don't know who I am the founder of Champion Circle Enterprise, which is a brand development agency, and our goal is to lead people and businesses forward through knowledge, clarity, and direction and branding. And we offer a multitude of services, but the core are content writing, brand strategy and presentations, and also consulting on strategic development for business. And what about you?
Come in. Yeah. So my name is Josh. A lot of folks call me Rav. My Instagram handle is Ravage the Game, so a lot of people call me Ravage. But um, I'm a video professional. I've worked in video for just under 10 years, and I'm also the founder of a video content agency known as Moguls HQ, which helps service-based businesses, coaches, and consultants grow their presence online through video with none of the headache. So our services include strategy, content creation, and post processing, distribution, and analytics review as well. So
Mm,
yeah, I mean, I think you and I are kind of coming at this from like um, two like different verticals that are in the same lane. You know what I'm saying?
facts.
There's a lot of interplay between kind of your area of expertise and mine, and so I think that's really what we wanted to kind of combine and bring together into that middle area where it can just be a powerhouse punch of value and perspective that that helps business owners do more of what they're trying to do.
Yes, sir. Big facts, man. So let's go ahead and dive right in, man. Do you have the talking topics up already?
I do, yeah. So
All right,
today,
look.
episode one, and actually, I'm super excited about this one just because I feel like there's a lot of that interplay that I mentioned between
All
your area of expertise and mine. And so, episode one is focused around reducing customer frustration, and you actually you curated this topic, and I'd love to know kind of like what made you feel that this is like a worthy area and an area that folks need or could use some assistance in as far as the way they go about their strategy.
Well, honestly, being a consumer is what inspired me to, go ahead and talk about, reducing customer frustration.
Mm,
Um, what I've learned from the consumer side as an end user is that when I'm a recipient of quality service, um, the service breaks down to how easy did they make this transaction for me. And when I go
mm-hmm,
to, let's say, a men's warehouse or express, they'll take a look at my clothes, they'll take a look at my skin tone, and they'll ask me questions like, hey, what are you looking into, what are you dressing for a specific
mm,
occasion, so it's instead of me having to go and look everywhere at all of this stuff and not know exactly what I need for the occasion. They'll ask me up front, hey, are you looking for a particular outfit or what have you, and I'd be like, yes. And in that case, they'll say, okay, well, based on the type of event you're going to, this is some of the colors that match your skin very well. This is some of the outfits and schemes that would fit that setting as well. So that
mm-hmm,
made that whole selection process very simple. And then from there, they'll help me find my size and my clothes, for my shirt that fits me properly, my pants. So by the time I'm ready to make that purchase, I'm already being introduced with this wonderful experience, and they're making my process from a walk-in to a buyer as simple as possible. So I want to educate businesses on how they could take advantage of creating simplicity and flow
mm-hmm.
within their sales pipeline, so that way they could so they could reduce the frustration for the customers that they're experiencing. We wear multiple hats, so by providing a strategy and a concept for people to follow that's simple and easy to implement, that's only going to make it more less stress for that entrepreneur or business owner as well. What's your take
Yeah,
on it?
I totally agree. And actually, last night I had a bit of a drive, and so I was
Mm,
tuned into um, a podcast that Alex Hormozy did, and
nice.
he's a pretty big entrepreneur that has a portfolio of companies. But one of the things that he said that really stood out to me was that oftentimes with the businesses that they work with, the thing that takes them from good to great is becoming more product and experience focused. At this point, they have
Mm-hmm.
revenue coming in, they're acquiring customers, whatever that is. He said that the thing that drives them over the edge and makes them great businesses is that they start to focus on almost like the non-tangibles, but they're very tangible for the customer. So he said, like, for example,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a marketing agency, right? Traditional marketing agency model is, hey, we're going to get you on a retainer, pay us 2K a month. Starting this month, by the end of the month, you should see some results, but I mean, you'll really start getting your results by month 3. And one of the things he
Right.
says is like, in their businesses, they try to find a way to shorten the timeline between when someone enrolls, when someone starts with the business,
Mm-hmm.
and when they get their first big win. So, like, he started out in
Mm-hmm.
fitness, and he said, look, like for the first 4 6 weeks, I would basically put people on like a starvation diet. And the thing about that is it's not sustainable, right? Like, you cannot sustainably keep your weight down and lose weight in that way. It's not healthy. But if you do it for 4 to 6 weeks, it's not going to be detrimental to your health, but you will lose weight at a rate far quicker than you will in a way that's sustainable. And so he said,
Mm-hmm.
we'll do that with them just so that they can see those results that quick. And we'll let them know, hey, look, you see that this works, right? You know that
Mm-hmm.
we are not blowing steam. Now is when we're actually going to implement the actual result. It's going to take a little bit longer, but you know that it works now. And so changing the way that customers go about their experience, like you said, it just helps put them in a different frame. Oh, there we go. We just swap places. I love it.
That's cool. That's dope. I was
But
just
yeah,
playing around with it. Mm.
it's one of those things that, like, I think it's very easy to fall into the notion that, like, you have to get better at marketing, you have to get better at sales, and that is going to be the lifeblood of your business from
Mm.
now until its highest days. And
Mm.
obviously, those things are important. But a big part of it becomes increasingly understanding, like, what are the costs that are more important than money to my avatar? And
Mm.
how can I reduce those costs or absorb those costs for them? Because when you can
Mm.
do that, not only can you create a better experience for them, but oftentimes for you to be able to do that, you have to charge higher, right? And you might
Mm-hmm.
need to structure your offer in a way that's more efficient. At the end of the day, it's a win-win for everybody. But
Facts.
the only way that you get there is by being so customer centric, and I think that's why this episode excites me so much.
Oh wow, that's excellent, man. I mean, the changeover, you just created a whole dynamic there. The changeover from back end, right? Process,
Hmm.
try to make to reduce the amount of steps, alleviate or address the pain points early
Hmm.
is what that changeover, that transition ultimately shortens the distance between you taking that client from problem to solution through your service, man.
Mm.
That is on the
Hmm.
front end. You see what I'm saying? Like that's
Yeah.
that's really insightful in itself, man. That's golden. That's golden, man. I was respect.
Hey man, like I said, like, a lot of the things that I share with folks are things that I learned and then implemented from other folks. Like, I don't
Hmm.
try and take credit as some kind of guru or like someone that has some kind of secret sauce. It's just a
Right.
matter of being able to resonate with something and then actually implement it and take those results and showcase them in an application that maybe someone wouldn't
Mm.
have thought of or that they didn't know about prior to meeting me or engaging with
Right.
someone like us. So yeah, I mean, it's not something I take credit for, but at the
Hmm.
same time, like, when you are so customer centric in that way, like, I think every business owner has a responsibility and an innate desire to
Mm.
find the ways in which they can express their care for their customer more. And I
Mm.
mean, I say that in the most like idealistic way. Like,
Right.
ideally, if you're in business from a place of like passion and a place of connection and empathy with your customer, that is the case. But I think that even if that's not where you're coming from, it doesn't mean that you
Mm.
can't still think that way,
Facts.
and still find increasing success.
Man, that's true, man. That's gold, bro. Shout out. What is the name? What is his name? Houses?
Alex
Hey,
Hormozy.
shout out to Alex, man. Big
We give
homie.
we give him his credit straight up.
Get that man his
So
flowers, bro. Big respect.
I have a question for you. So I have some thoughts naturally on
Hmm.
you know some of the best means through which you can kind of reduce that customer frustration. But like, when we hear that as a tagline and we're looking at it from a very macro place,
Mm.
where do you think like what do you think is the first step for a business owner that's thinking, okay, so maybe there are some points of frustration in my process that I'm
Mm,
not yet aware of, but
mm,
now that you guys are mentioning it, like this is something I need to think about.
mm,
What is their first step? Would you describe that as like an audit of their process? Would you describe that as surveying customers? Like in your mind, what
mm.
does the first move look like to beginning to alleviate some of those concerns?
I'm gonna say go through it yourself. Put
Mm,
yourself in your consumer's shoes. The thing about being a new entrepreneur, if we're talking to new business owners or even more seasoned business owners, in the beginning, we might not have the customer base yet, to track and get those surveys so that way we can get their end users experience
mm,
for
that's a
upfront.
good point.
So in the beginning, go through it yourself. Say, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and go through my own process. Or you can recruit a friend and do like a beta. Hey, can you just, for this, let's say we use this webinar for example. Hey, I'm testing out this new platform, Webinar Ninja, and I want to see how it works from a consumer's perspective. Would you mind registering just to see how it works and tell me your experience?
Mm,
They can on the front end, they can do that. On the back end to amplify the results of the process there. Again, do it yourself. A lot
yeah,
of times we wind up getting removed as we scale from the process through
yeah,
automations in what we considered as optimizing,
mm,
which is just trying to make it as quick as possible. That doesn't necessarily mean seamless because there can still be a lack of touch, like we talked about in the other live before, a lack of humanity in that process, which could create that dissonance between the customer and transaction. So
yeah,
even on a larger scale, I would say run a beta test or do a large scale survey. And talk to your consumers, do interviews with your consumers to
mm,
get that direct insight. Hey, where are we falling short? Hey, where is it the best? What's the best part in our sales pipeline? From a consumer perspective, was it smooth? Was it confusing? What did our content, what did our messaging tell you? If you have the marketing team, then I would certainly recommend doing that. Um, from the perspective of how to gain that insight and where to start on a small and on a big business
yeah.
perspective.
And I love that because I think you can really easily create some measurable goals within that understanding. Like, whether you have a team or not, like, it's
Right.
very easy and less overwhelming for you to, instead of thinking, oh man, I have to reduce customer frustration in my business, to make the goal like, hey, I'm going to collect, I'm going to reach out to my entire customer base and see
Right.
about collecting feedback. Or, I'm going to invite 10 folks to run a beta test before we
Hmm.
decide that we're going to update our processes. I like
Right.
that. I love that approach a lot. And I think that it's very customer centric in that it's starting from the mindset and the perspective of the people that you're looking to serve. And
Hmm.
I think that's the easiest thing to get wrong. And I think just like as an add-on to that, I would say like map it out. Like if
Mm.
you can create a model of what that journey looks like,
Right.
it's a lot easier for you to identify those leverage points and those points um, where frustration could be because actually I think to backtrack a little bit, like it's
Hmm.
important for us to describe frustration, right? Like
Okay.
what
Fair.
like let's define what frustration means. And I
Okay.
think when I imagine that, because I'm actually kind of going through a little bit of this right now. So I hired some folks to do some work for a portion of my business,
Hmm.
and I am feeling increasingly frustrated with them. And the reason that I'm feeling frustrated with them, I would describe it as simply either a lack of clarity
Mm.
or a misalignment between what was expected and what was given or experienced, right?
Right.
And so this can come in a couple of ways. This can be with the actual product itself. Oh, I thought that I was going to get a nice hot chicken sandwich,
Mm.
but I actually got a cold meal. Like that's product centric frustration, but you can also have frustration that's born more out of the experience or the communication. I believed that I was going to get updates every week, but I'm not.
Mm.
I'm getting them every month, or I was never told when I would get updates at all. And so sometimes I
Mm.
get an update in a couple days, and sometimes I get it after a couple weeks, and there's no clarity there, which allows room in your customer's mind to just start asking those what if questions, like what if this was a
Mm,
misuse of my resources? What if these folks don't really care about me in the way that I'd hoped they would? And so I
mm,
think that, like, to kind of just put an umbrella over it, like, I think that is what we're trying to avoid. But I want to get your thoughts
mm.
on what else that term and that feeling of frustration might encompass.
Okay, I think you made an excellent point, which is one of the major cores of frustration is a lack of clear communication. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, man, we've been going ham for this, but we
Mm-hmm.
discussed previously um, clear communication, man. Um, let's take example for a email list, a newsletter, for example. So if you're going to a website and they have cookies, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you opt in for the cookies and you don't know, you didn't read it, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the fine print that said this means that they'll be able to target you and send you emails and capture your information, right? So if I'm a consumer and I'm not reading that, and then I randomly start getting a bunch of emails from you and you didn't even connect with me, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be totally caught off guard. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? As opposed to, yes, still having that cookies, but giving people an opportunity, let's say a pop up on the website to subscribe to
Yeah.
your newsletter, that gives the end user more control, more understanding of what they'll be receiving if they were to join your
Yeah.
mailing list versus
There's a
going in
clear
blind.
correlation there between
Hmm.
any marketing emails that they're getting from then on and their opt-in. And
Right.
even if they don't remember or draw that connection, like, just because they invested in the way that they did, they're going to be a lot more receptive to it. Yeah.
Exactly. That's going to help the open rates. It's going to help all of that stuff, man. Additionally, consent. Consent is
Hmm.
important. It's extremely important. How much? I mean, we're going on a date, right? How much better does it feel if both parties decide consent to spend more time with each other?
Yeah. As
It feels
opposed to just
way
pursuit or something. Yeah.
right. It's way more real like that. Like what? Yes, I would like to receive more information from you. Right off the bat, they're warmer. They're warmer than cold.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. They're
Right off the
warmer
bat.
than cold. Warm, but warmer than cold. I love that.
X, X.
That's so good, man.
Yeah.
So now that we've kind of like defined some of the variables,
Frustration. Hmm.
right? Some of the things that can feed into that. Um,
Hmm.
what do you think is step two, right? So like we have
Okay.
this good understanding of what our customers think. Um, I think that there's, as business owners, we get that sometimes what our customers tell us and what they want
Hmm.
can be a bit separate.
Mm.
And I guess the question is really like, do you
That's
think
good.
that that is the case as well when you're collecting customer feedback about, hey, like what's frustrating, whatever? Like, should you kind of leave it open ended so that your customer themselves can identify for you what those what those sources of frustration are, or should you go into it with a couple of different variables and a couple of different areas of opportunity that you've identified, and then let them respond to those?
I'm gonna say it's a mixture of both.
Mm,
Because to your point, there are customers who are just enthralled by your service and they don't
mm,
see where the shortcomings may be.
mm.
So by coming to those type of customers, your fans, your advocates, so to speak, and say, hey, a couple of my other clients or my other customers are bringing this to my attention. Have you ever experienced this? I know I know that we really value you, and we
Mhm,
believe your insight would really help us in this department. Kind of
mhm.
if you position it like that, then they'll be more excited, more open to
Yeah,
considering and giving that critique, that type
right,
of
yeah,
feedback to you. And then for those individuals who are more on the newer side, first time buyers, you know what I mean? Just kind of tapping in with them, be like, hey, give them a call. I would say, hey, how you doing? Hey, this is Corey. I'm the founder or I'm the director of marketing, or hey, it's just me. You know what I mean? I just wanted to follow up with you and say hello. But I'm really big on customer service. I'm trying my best to deliver great value to the people that I can serve, to the community that I serve, like you. I want to know, did you experience was there any part of your service or experience so far that I can improve on? Something as simple as that. That way, the newer people, they're fresh. They have the best set of eyes. They're coming into it. They'll be the most, I think they'll be the most ready to tell you, yeah,
Yeah,
actually, that third email was kind of weird, bro. I didn't really
right.
understand it. You know
Yeah,
what I
they're
mean?
the
Yeah.
ones. They're the ones that are. They have less reason to be loyal, so to speak,
Right.
and that's really valuable from a from the perspective of someone that's looking to build loyalty through the
Mm.
service and through the experience. So that makes a lot of sense. That makes a ton of sense. Oh, Kevon says he was looking for this on Instagram. Nah, man, this webinar only. He said we said hit the link in the bio, bro. So I don't know if this is true on Instagram as well. But I've been
Mm.
seeing a lot of folks talking about how the platforms have been suppressing um,
Mm.
like copy in captions or comments that
Mm.
says link in bio. So
I
folks have been
respect that.
finding like when I posted about it earlier, I was like, hey, like you can sign up by going to that web address and you'll find it by
I
looking
seen
in the
that.
place that people put web addresses. I don't know if that helped or not, but I was like, you
That
know what?
was
Let's play it
clean.
safe. Let's play it safe. But yeah, I'm glad that you were able to make it in here,
Yeah,
man.
fact, respect, appreciate you, man, for sure.
So to
Nah,
to
that's
kind of
dope.
add on to that,
All right, hold on. So far, we got um content. No, not content, but customer frustration pain points. Right.
mhm,
In terms of frustration, we have lack of clear communication. You
mhm,
know what I mean? Which involves consent and creating a relationship where
yeah,
your consumer doesn't come in blind and they're saying they're opting in to receive information or continue to do business with you as
yeah.
opposed to just going in blind. So first one of customer frustration is lack of clear communication. And the second pain point, what was the second pain point? Go ahead.
So the second is going to be just a misalignment in
Hmm.
what they expected and what they got,
Right.
or potentially even just a lack of clarity, right? Because
Hmm.
I think those two are kind of like two sides of the same coin. Like
Right.
telling someone that it's going to be something when it's actually something else
Right.
is just as bad or worse as just not telling them. You feel me? Like
Fact.
so that second bundle, I would say makes up like pain point number two.
That's right. Okay, that's pretty solid so far. And
Yeah,
again, for those that just joining us, in the beginning we did we set the foundation saying that the goal of reducing customer frustration on the back end is kind of optimizing and humanizing your processes,
yeah,
and trying to gather that feedback up front or try to reduce the amount of steps in your sales process, making it as easy as possible for consumers to move in your sales pipeline. And
yeah.
then the changeover on the front end is by creating a shorter, less confusing sales process. You're able to shorten the distance between their problem and their solution through your service. So that's
Yeah.
where we're drawing the line and we're connecting those dots, man. So
And
so
just
far
just
so
to
good.
speak on that a little bit, like one bit of context that I'd like to add is that
Hmm.
people will be more satisfied if they
Hmm.
experience a less superior quality product with
Mm.
more clarity than they will be
Facts.
if they experience a more superior, higher quality product with less clarity or more frustration, right? Like
Facts.
and so, like, obviously, we want to find a sweet spot of both where we're able to create an amazing product, an amazing service, and we're also able to create a winning experience and minimize the
Mm.
frustration. But at the end of the day, you're always going to be able to reiterate on your product and reintroduce that to the folks that you already implemented it with. But
Yep.
it's a lot harder to make up for that mental imprint that's created when your customer
Mm.
experiences frustration as they engage with your brand. So
Right.
that's kind of why it's such a like that's kind of why so much of what we're saying is not product centric. Obviously,
Facts.
like there are, like I said, frustrations that can occur from the product, but I think those are a lot easier to reconcile because you control the product. um,
Hmm.
but when it comes to their experience with the brand, like that's a two-way street, and it's not just about what you do or don't do, it's also about what they perceive and how they
Right.
perceive it, and so we have to keep that in mind.
Excellent. That's popping, man. Yes, sir. So let's
Yeah.
move forward, man. So tell me, man, I want to know how do we take this insight? Our customers are telling us where the cogs are in our pipeline. Our customers are telling us, how we can improve on our service. Our customers are also celebrating our wins with us and saying we're
Mm.
doing great in other areas. So how do we merge this customer experience and present it to others, man? How do we use this information to attract clients, man? How do we do that?
That's a great question. I love that. I think one of the biggest things, and we've spoken on this before, is we're gonna call it the approach of selling the vacation, just because
Okay.
I think a lot of people understand that. And what I mean by that is when you have an amazing product, um, or even if you just have a mediocre product, to be quite honest with
Facts.
you,
Hey, you got to keep
I,
it funky, man.
to be honest, regardless, like when you've invested some degree of time, effort, resources into creating a product or service, people's first thought is to just beat people over the head with the features, right? Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, like we're gonna do this and it looks like this and it comes with this. Ah, ah, ah. But
Oh.
I think at some point what you'll find is that people are going to resonate a lot more with the feeling than they
Mm.
are with the logic of what the feature set is, right? And
Mm.
so like, to take the classic example of the way Apple marketed the iPod, it was not,
Mm.
hey, so this thing has 2 gigabytes of functioning memory that allow it to
Mhm.
process songs at 1/10 of it was not a technical, it was tapping into the feeling of wonder that
Mm.
someone would feel if they began to imagine what it's like to walk around with 1,000 songs in your pocket. You get what I'm
Right.
saying? And so I
Right.
think we have to find a way to make our product and service appeal in that way and showcase that. And the way that you're going to showcase that is through content. And that's not
Mm.
me being biased as a video strategist saying, hey, man, come and make some content. Um, no, I don't
Facts.
care what it looks like. It could look like blogs. It could look like, copy on a testimonial page.
Mhm.
It could look like a video series of testimonials or um, a video series collaborating with your clients as you go about the transformation. But
Mhm.
that's kind of really where you want the focus to be because, and this is a big point. So
Mm.
we understand, and many of us will agree with the idea that if I have an amazing product or service that will actually help you, I'm doing you a disservice if I
Mm.
don't make it as easy as possible for you to become a customer of mine, right?
Mm.
One of the things that people don't realize is that when you have a service that appears as a commodity, you are
Mm.
making the purchasing decision harder for your customer. Because
Ooh.
now, when they are on the other side of the table with you and they're looking at what the experience is in store for them, it's much more difficult when that is so closely aligned to that of your competition that they have to look at it and hold it up against each other and say, okay, so this one's like $200 more, but this one comes with it.
Mm.
But because at that point, they're trying to make a purely logical decision
Mhm.
around something that they felt emotional enough about to do something about. But
Mm.
if you've done your job of portraying the emotional transformation and the emotional
Mm.
experience as they go about engaging with you, that never happens. It never has to.
Facts.
Because then
Mm.
when they're looking at this sheet, they say, yes, that is how I want to feel, right? That is the way that I want to go about it or that I'm comfortable going about it. And I entrust you to get me there
Mm.
because you understand me so well up until this point.
Mm.
So to directly tie it into like answering your question, what I would say is like you have to speak their language and you
Mm.
have to do it in a way that is available to them before they sit across from you. And then when
Mm.
you are on that sales call, then when they are on that VSL page or that webinar page or that checkout
Right.
page, it's not coming from a place of, okay, this looks good, but
Mm.
it's coming from a place of, okay, this looks good and and I
Mm.
already know that it
Okay.
feels good because
Mm.
these folks that they were able to show me, these stories that they were able to share with me, resonated with me in a way that is unique because I thought this was a unique pain. I thought this was a unique problem. And they just showed
Mm.
me that it's not, and that they
Right.
have so mastered it that they've been able to create the way I want to feel in other people.
Mm. Damn, yeah, that's it right there, man. That's fire, man. Clap it up for my
That's it.
guy, bro.
Bro, it's like I think the overarch here is just like being as customer centric as you can, like, and
Mm,
it's hard because we put so much time, effort, and energy into building the things that we do, and
mm-hmm.
like you said before, it's very easy for us to become disconnected from the people that caused us to do that in the first place. And so
Thanks.
we're building this widget and we're looking at the widget and we're like, oh man, this notch is so perfect. And I want to tell people all about this notch. People don't care about the notch. You know what I'm saying?
Yup.
People care
Mm,
about how it's going to improve their lives and their relationships, their money, whatever it is that you're helping them evolve with their service. So we just got
facts.
to keep the focus there.
Hey, man, that's it right there. Another way to look at it is to in marketing, you want to talk less about the functions,
Hmm.
you know what I mean, or the features, and emphasize the value and the benefits to the consumer, which is exactly what you were saying. You want to, if you're selling that vacation, people want to see what is it like to be on that vacation, so that way they could imagine what it's like for them. And then if your pricing strategy is solid and all of your customer flow is immaculate and simple, oh man, it's gonna
Yeah.
be too easy for them. If
Right.
all they have to do after seeing this commercial, this visual, and seeing themselves in it, all they have to do is click a button, and then they call you, and then
Right.
you already have everything lined up. Okay, we have one, two, three packages. The one that you've seen. Are you looking for that exact experience? We also offer these experiences. You want to minimize the options for them, but you want to make it as close to their desired outcome as possible.
Yeah, and I love what you mentioned about kind of just having that picture already pre-framed so that
Hmm.
they have a point of reference when they're coming
Hmm.
into it. And one of the biggest consequences, or positive consequences of that
Right.
is that you don't need as much goodwill
Mm,
and you are better positioned for forgiveness if something goes wrong.
mm,
If you're able to say, hey, look, so this is where we're getting you to, right? And
right.
we're getting you there because we've done it before. There is a road to get there, right?
Hmm.
We are not trying to tell you that there are no obstacles on this road. What we're trying to tell you is that you are best off navigating it with us because we've navigated so many times before, or we've immersed ourselves in enough experience
Mm,
to be able to navigate it in a way that is very far beyond the way a beginner or someone that's entering this journey for the first time would navigate
right.
it.
Right.
When you say that and position that, they understand about customers or clients or um, you know what we're really talking about is human beings.
Right.
Beings understand that things happen, things go wrong, things whatever that is. But when you're able to set an expectation for them, it puts you in a better position to recognize when you drop the ball and then be
Mm,
forward about it and say, hey, look, you know, if we made a mistake or, we know that we made a mistake, um, this is not the part of the experience that we wanted to create for you, but we're going to make sure that you're taken care of and that vision that we shared together is still alive. And we're going to make sure that you get there. That sounds a lot better than, hey, oh, like this didn't go the way you thought it would. Well, what did you think it was gonna be? Like, because this stuff
ah,
happens, like that's just a part of the road. We don't want to put our customers in that position because that's when it starts to sow seeds of doubt in
mm,
our organization, our abilities, and our care for them. And
mm.
we want to minimize that, of course.
Man, I love the way you framed that. I think that's essential as well. I think that's a part of that transparency, that honesty that we could share with our customers. Just as you stated, if they're calling in for a service and we're letting them know up front, hey, it's it may not go exactly as planned. It's not going to be perfect, so to speak.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if you follow these steps, like the rest of the customers who were able to get the fullest extent of this experience so far, then you are going to enjoy your time. And if anything happens, any hiccups happen along the way, we're here to support you. Because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, what a customer wants to hear is we got your back. You know,
Yeah.
we already made it simple for you. We painted that picture, you bought a ticket to the show.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? Realistically, you had a very seamless sales process. The transaction was easy. You're feeling good going through it. The service is on point. And then right before we send you on your journey or we assist you through the process to getting to the destination that you want, we're letting you know up front, hey, if anything goes wrong, we got your back. You know
Yeah.
how much assurance that gives to your customer? I
Yeah.
remember, I remember one time, this is totally a user error, but I'm gonna use Easy Tap as an example.
Mm.
So I had bought the Easy Tap card, and the delivery. Let me see what we need to be here.
Yeah. Our
That's
boy had a
hilarious.
bad experience with T-Mobile. What they do, man?
That's
Oh no.
funny, bro. That's hilarious.
That's so
Nah, but
funny.
so there was like a delay in the shipping. There was an accident, and I was on top of it. I was asking questions. Hey, where's the product? Hey, where's this? Because I'm a hands-on type of
Mhm.
customer, and Easy Tap was able to resolve the issue. They was like, hey, this is what's going on. We apologize for the inconvenience. Here's an incentive. I didn't take the incentive, but they were like, here, let's make this experience as best as we can. We honestly apologize for the inconvenience, and I was able to receive my product in a reasonable amount of time according to the delays. And then if I had any issues, they was like, you know what, no problem, we'll replace it. It was a user error. I wasn't using it correctly. But
Mm.
they met me at a space, and they was like, hey, let's go ahead and do this exchange. I'll reactivate it for you, what have you. That is immaculate customer service.
Yeah.
I came in up front. The process was easy to buy the Easy Tap. I waited. There was a hiccup. They addressed it up front. They were honest and let me know what's going on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then right after that, I received the product. And if I had any issues, they were willing to go out of their way to make sure that I had a working device. And
Yeah.
my experience from there has been elevated. I've been telling everybody about Easy Tap just off the
Yeah.
strength, you know what I
Right.
mean, of the service, the simplicity, and then the value to the consumer. I'm using
Right. And that's
myself
on
as an
top of a
example.
stellar product.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I
And the
think I
same
think honestly, like
like
having that stellar
hats
product
off.
is
Mm,
like icing on the cake when you have great
yep,
service.
right. Nasty, bro. Super nasty, bro. But
And
yeah, man, I'm with you all the way. Go ahead.
there's something that I think we we could very easily cruise over, but I don't want to. And
Okay,
so
go
one
ahead.
of the things that you just expressed, which I love because I actually think it's a much lower barrier to entry than people think, is
Mm.
what we'll call continued support, right? And so
Ooh, I like that. Right.
after you after we wrap up, right? You have the thing,
Mm-hmm.
okay, cool. To what extent do we provide some support that
Mm.
creates clarity at a longer time horizon for you
Mm.
beyond once we stop working? And so like I think
It's good.
there are some industries or some business models where people think it's just like thinking about that is easier.
Mm.
Um, but I want
Mm.
to kind of get people's minds to start thinking about, okay, if I own a service, so I'm just going to use like a plumber as an example, right? So
Okay,
like
word.
I think if we were to try and think, okay, I'm a plumber, how can I extend the timeline of my support beyond the initial thing, right? Okay,
Right.
I can come in and do a job for you. Could be a 30-day warranty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if your toilet clogs again, I'll come back and unclog it for 30 days.
Gang.
I think a lot of people would find that to be unappealing because it's like, okay, well, I mean, that's kind of not, that doesn't have anything to do with me. Like if
Mm-hmm.
they clog their toilet again, it's probably because they are using it improperly, and it's going to take resources and money and other things to make sure that I can actually fulfill that promise. Okay. But what I want people to start thinking of is how can we provide something that is of little cost to us, but of
Mm.
extreme value emotionally to our customer. So imagine you're that same plumber,
Mm.
and after you finish unclogging their toilet, you say, "Hey, listen, what's your email? I'm gonna send you over a PDF guide for how to unclog your toilet, the amount of toilet paper that you should be putting into your toilet and should not be putting to avoid clogs, and I don't know, here, take this bottle of toilet cleaner that I recommend to all of my owners because some of the toilet cleaners on the market will crack your porcelain. This one won't.
Right.
All of that together is such a low barrier to entry. You buy that little solution wholesale, you're probably paying a couple bucks a bottle. You make the
Right.
PDF one time, you invest in actually getting it created. Maybe that costs you $100. You create it as many times as you need. But the amount of support and keep it like, even if you were to do all that and then say, and if you have any problems, you can call us for 30 days and we'll help you over the phone to unclog your toilet if you need to again. Right. So
Mm.
like the cost has gone so far down for you
Right.
from actually having a 30-day, like we're going to send someone out kind of guarantee. But I
Hmm.
actually feel like you provide more value because instead of your customer experiencing passive support, which is, yeah,
Mm.
so this is here so that when the bridge collapses, you can fall on this.
Mm.
But you're giving them an active support, which is, hey, we're going to hold you up as you cross the bridge ahead
Right.
of time. Before you even
Mm.
got there, we're here with the bridge on our shoulders. We are going to make sure that you get across and you get to the other side. And
Mm.
so, less expense, more perceived value. Your
Right.
customers are going to be raving fans. Like that's the kind
Mm.
of thing. I don't. I think like which do you think is more likely for someone to say, yeah, no, and he gave me a 30-day, back guarantee, or yo, like he gave me this guide, like he gave me toilet cleaning products, like, and he said I can call him if anything. Like I just feel so safe
Right.
working with him and with the outcomes that we'll get together. So like no matter
Facts.
what kind of business model you have, that's the way that I think we should be thinking about not only reducing customer frustration while they're with us and while they're coming through our
Hmm.
process, but
Hmm.
also how can we look ahead and anticipate what might frustrate them after they're done working with us before they experience it and find
Hmm.
some low expense way of helping them become equipped to handle those
Mm.
things. We
Facts.
do that, and not only do we keep retention high and get our word of mouth referrals high because we've just gone so above and beyond, but we're showing just how much we care. And that's one of
Mm.
those intangibles, like it
Facts.
really has an effect.
All right, man. Let me go ahead and drop this context jewel. You know, I'm a context
Oh
type of
yeah, yeah,
person.
yeah.
So context jewel. So what he's explaining, in so many words, immaculately expressed though. By the way,
Thank you.
if you were everyone that was listening, I'm sure you extracted hella gems to what he just said. But I'm a context guy, so I'm gonna reframe it
Good
a
man.
little bit. So essentially, what he's explaining is this: if you're able to create additional support post transaction, then you're going to extend the customer lifetime value. What that means is they're more likely to share your business with others through referrals, more likely to spend more money with your company, and they're also more likely to share that tool or resource. They're going to become a fan of your business because you don't, what is it called, transact and then ghost. You don't do that. That's messed up. And also, depending on where you are in business, take these concepts and apply them with what you can provide. You know, I tell this to creative professionals all the time. You know, if you can anticipate problems or identify a trend that your customers are coming back to you for, create a course. You know, create some type of video guide to walk them through that next problem they may experience. You know, that's very practical and something you can do if you're a small business solo or you a large enterprise. You can do that through various mediums, but do it in a way that's most convenient and makes the most sense to your what you can do, your capacity, and your customer. You know, straight like that. So
Dude,
again,
and,
what do you?
and I
Yeah.
love what you, bro. I just have to address this because it's such a good nugget. So like when we're talking about like expanding product lines or expanding service offerings, I think that that is a beautiful way to go about it. And what I just heard as an area of opportunity and what you said is okay. There's this a range of things that we can do now, but
Hmm.
we also know that especially in the B2B space, but also in
Right.
B2C, when you buy our service or you buy our product, we are also participating in segueing you to your next set of problems,
There you
right? So if
go.
you buy our dumbbells, we know that we're also segueing into you now being sweaty in clothes, right?
True.
And
Hey,
there's
that's
different
it.
kind of clothes that you're going to want to be sweaty in and not. We also know that we're making you, you're about to experience cramping and stiffness and
Mm-hmm.
soreness. And so the more you can prepare, like you said, if I can create a guide, if I can create a course or a resource that says, hey, like, these are some of the clothes that we found to be best to work out in, or maybe here they are. These are some of the things that we found to help relax cramping muscles, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
You can start getting customer feedback for a product or a service offering that you don't even have yet. And so if you start giving out that resource and your customers are coming back to you a couple months later when you go in and check on them and they say, hey, that guide was really helpful. I did find that this was more helpful than this. Now, if that becomes something that you want to offer or include in your offering, you are that much more equipped from customer feedback. It's not just what you
Mm.
know they're going to experience, but it's also what you know they have experienced and what worked for them the best, and it didn't
Mm-hmm.
cost you much. You didn't have to do a ton of
Mm-hmm.
market research because you were already in the market. It was just like a forward. It was almost like putting a tracker on it, on a like a sea animal, and then letting them go off into the ocean, and then you check on them a couple of months later, and they're like, yeah, like water around here was like this, water around here was like that, conditions were like this, and you're like, oh, nice. So now we know where our boat should and should not go. Y'all were
Mm-hmm.
already going there anyways. You just
Facts.
equipped and empowered our navigation of that much better.
Facts. I want to add one more piece to that. Then we got a question in the comments I
Let's
want
do
us
it.
to address. All right. So, man, when talking about opportunity, bro, oh my goodness, you got me
Hmm.
excited when you said that.
Hmm.
Um, that was a beautiful expression. So, man, depending on which hat you have on as a business, this is savviness, entrepreneurship. It all depends on where you're at the time. So, if you're anticipatory, meaning you're able to identify what that next problem might be, depending on the resources within your network, you can create affiliate relationships with other businesses that decreases the amount of work you have to put in to solve that future problem. And by
Amen.
creating that relationship B2B to address a customer pain point, not only are you creating more value for your customer, but at the same time you're potentially creating another avenue of revenue in a partnership channel to scale your operation in total. That's going to get you more customers because you're now doing cross marketing and everything like that. Another thing that you can do um, is putting the ball in the customer's court. Again, what we want to try to mitigate as much as possible is transact and ghost. So that closing, that final email that says, "Hey, let us know if you have any questions. We won't be a stranger. We'll be more than glad to address your concerns." Just ending with that and then maybe doing a follow up with them a couple months down the line. But let's just say ending right there, you're putting the ball in their court. So you're able to close off that experience and you are now pretty much free to float and move forward. Definitely
Yeah.
want to make sure that you request a feedback of some medium, whether that's a survey or a video, what have you, so that way you can capture the value that you were able to deliver there. But that's a closed loop right there, fam. So yeah, just wanted to add that tidbit, man. When it comes to identifying or being anticipatory for future problems or desires that your customers may have, you can go the route of creating an additional resource to assist, like a blog guide or like a blog or a guide or a course. You could go the affiliate route and partner with other businesses to solve those like problems and scale in that capacity, or you can just say, "Hey, let us know if you need additional support," and have them follow up with you. You know, if they're having a good time with the service, then they're not going to hit you up. If they're having a challenge with the service, then they hit you up. But if you position everything like we're talking about, reduction of customer frustration, you're anticipating, you're providing these resources. Go back to that plumber concept, and you're able to provide some level of additional support post transaction. Oh, you're gonna be in the running for a lot of sales, a lot of revenue potential. So let's
Man,
go
you
ahead
just
and
opened up the game, bro. You just opened up the game, literally, bro. I love it. I love it. So deep.
all right. All right, let's see what this questions have to say. All right, so Kevon, appreciate you for submitting the queue. So his question is: so can we touched on? Something what we discussed already. Can you guys talk about positive versus negative post interactions?
Mm,
I've had companies follow up with me to either sell or add on or to just check in. While I appreciate the checking in, I've experienced situation where it was more of an annoyance than it would be helpful or appreciative. What do you guys think about that? I'll let you go ahead and take the reins on this one, brother.
okay. Um, so I do think the follow up is important because, like you said, Corey, you don't want to transact and ghost. And I'll be
Mm,
candid. In my earlier days of business, that was something that I was not as privy to,
mm,
and so I was kind of an example of that, and it was
I'm
not
guilty too, bro.
right. It's not fun. You don't feel good about it, and it does not do well for those relationships.
Hmm.
Now, as far as the right way to go about it, I think a big part of it actually circles back to what we were saying earlier, which is anticipating the rest of your customer's journey, right? It's
Mm,
one thing. So let's say we finish up our our approach. Let's say I'm a personal trainer, right?
right.
And you and I had a program. I had a program that helps people get six packs, and then you did it, and you got your six pack. Woo! So I could check in with you 2 months later.
Hmm.
I'm going to give an A and B example. Example A
Okay.
is, hey man, have you lost your six pack? Because if you did, I can help you get it back.
Mm,
Example B is, hey man, like, I hope that all is well. I hope you're still feeling healthy, whatever that is. I know a lot of people that will get their six pack right by going through my program or a program, and then they'll focus on upper body. And at some point, right around 2 months later, they start realizing that they didn't put their focus on legs and they really don't know how to work out legs. Here's a guide on how to work out your legs so that your body looks more even, so to speak, right?
right.
And so, like,
Yes.
I think in that place, like you're anticipating where your customer is at, might be at, whatever that is. And then you
Hmm.
have to, oh, and this is going to feed into episode two. You have to see how they respond.
Mm,
If they engage with that, it shows you, okay, I might have been on the right track with them because ultimately everyone's journey is going to look different.
right.
Um, if they don't, then maybe you go about it in a different way. But I would say
Mm,
you always want it to be coming from a place of help, right?
hmm.
And if I was to be selling in the follow up, I wouldn't want it to
Hmm.
be, hey, you've done business with me before. You want to do business with me again? I would want it to be, hey, you've done business with me before, and I know that it's put you somewhere with a different set of problems. Here's something, whether it's information or a resource, whatever that is, that I hope will help you solve some of those problems. And keep me in mind if you would like assistance with the implementation.
Mm,
There's nothing wrong with that kind of a subtle reminder, but it's constant, like, kind of give and take. And I think a
right.
big part of our responsibility as business owners is just
Mm,
finding those areas of like maximum leverage where I can give you something that didn't take a lot for me to make, but that
hmm.
creates a lot for you, creates a lot of value, creates a lot of clarity, creates a lot of trust. And
Hmm.
so that's the way that I would go about it, is like, let me try and figure out where this is going to land you. And when I reach
Hmm.
back out, let me have something for that version of you and for that environment. And then we can, there's nothing wrong with dropping a reminder there that I can help you with this too, because you might not have known
Right.
that. You came to me for
True.
a single set of problems, and now you have a different set of problems. If I can
Right.
help you with both, I'm going to let you know.
Right.
And people are receptive to that, because they
Facts.
already have trust with you. And when people need to get a solution for a problem, they would always prefer to do it with someone that they trust.
That's real.
Always.
That's real. All right. Let me get my thoughts on this one. So let's see. So positive and negative post interaction. So I definitely resonate with the shiftiness of how these things play out. So I'm gonna say first I'll go from a business standpoint. I'm a brand first, so that talks a lot to the intent. You know what I mean? Why am I following up with my consumers? So if I want to try to create a more positive interaction on the follow up, then I would speak in a more invitation tone. Like, hey, I'm just checking in with you. I hope you having a great experience. These are some of the challenges that come up, you know what I mean, with people who bought similar products like yours. If you have any issues, please feel free to give us a call so we can talk you through it. Or feel free, or here's a resource, no obligation, a downloadable guide. If you're facing these problems, go ahead and this will help you out. I think that is a good way with the intention of determining how you want to facilitate that interaction to build that relationship. Mike Felix is pretty good at that. I've subscribed to his emails, and sometimes he'll just send me an email just like, "Hey, I hope you're having a great week. This is a crazy story that happened. Carry on." You know what I mean? Mahdi Wood on his Instagram page. It's not post transaction, but if you're following him, the previous content and then the next content and then the next content, we're gonna take a social perspective to post interaction,
Yeah.
post transaction. Consumption and then consumption again. So what on his page, he has stuff specifically just for humor, just to make you laugh. You know what I mean? So I think that it depends on the intent and approach. I would say a lot, not a lot, but a handful of businesses where they get mixed up in the post interaction is going to be understanding why they're reaching out. If they're a very sales focused company, then they may send blast emails specifically for retargeting, and they could miss their mark because that's absent of relationship. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? If they're very aggressive, and if the company is more relationship based and they just want to help, then they might take that first approach of inviting them to share their feedback and experience. That's definitely something I do. If they're like kind of in the middle, you know what I mean? Then they have an opportunity to do both. What do they want to retarget? They have choice. Do they want to retarget or do they want to just build the connection? I think at the end of the day, it goes back into the intent. I've been on both sides where I've subscribed to an email list off YouTube because the dude was talking good game, and all I received was, "Hey, I got this product. I want you to buy it today." I'm like,
Right.
bro, like dog, like I don't even know you, right? And then the
Yeah.
next week, hey, I noticed that you opened my email. I think you're ready to buy this product now. I'm like, nah, that's very off-putting. So
Yeah.
it's very tricky. You know what I mean? So I would say if you're the business owner, definitely consider the intent of why you're wanting to set what type of relationship you want to build post transaction, and then
Yeah.
kind of go from there. That would be my response.
I think that
Um,
last sentence for me is like what really puts a bow on it is just like think about what kind of relationship you want with the person on the other side. And so I think like you mentioned earlier, it's so easy to get desensitized in the sea of like automations and funnels and email lists and blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, like all of these tools are meant to be an extension of our natural process of
mm,
building relationships. And so I would never
mm.
walk up to you and have you ask me about what it is that I do, and I tell you a bit about it. Next day, hey Corey, it's me, Goku. Like, talk to me about my thing. Like you were just asking me about it. Next week, I would never do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I would look like a crazy person.
Yeah,
And
like,
it's
hey, I haven't talked to you in 3 days. Like,
right.
bruh,
Hey,
it's
it's
been
been 3 days. Still alive? You haven't bought my thing yet. It's still in your checkout. Like, dude,
don't you
that's
want my
exactly
spirit
what
bomb?
people are doing. That's exactly the
join my
same thing.
join my spirit bomb campaign.
Right.
I'm trying to
Right.
get as many energy as hands as possible. You said you
Right.
were interested,
It
and I
happened.
I misinterpreted that as you want to buy my product. That goes back to the conversation and relationship. Active listening skills, all
Yeah.
of that, and it's super important. Because just as Kivon's saying, man, that's very aggravating. If I told Goku, hey man, I loved that episode, I thought it was great, and then it didn't have nothing to do with spirit bombs, and he's like, yo, share your energy with me, bro. Like, what you mean, dog?
Right.
I'm
What
just
you
talking
mean?
about
Yeah. It's
the hands you was throwing. I talk about how you turned into a Super Saiyan. I thought it was lit. You saying here,
right.
yo, share your energy with me, be like,
So
whoa, we don't got that type. We ain't got that
that
type
ain't
of
what we all right.
relationship yet.
And I love that because it also shows that there's a nuance to the give and take, right? Like just
Yeah.
because someone, gives you props for the way you manage your business or the way that you present doesn't necessarily mean that they are interested in your pro. And so I really do think that it's like you said, that invitational ask is so important and also redeeming because then you get permission, you get the consent. It's like
Right.
there's not opportunity for me to misconstrue how you responded if I say, oh, hey, like, I've noticed you asking a lot of questions about this, and I'm happy to
Right.
answer them. I'm just curious, like, is this something that you think might be a fitting solution for one of your needs, or
Wow.
are you just curious? Whatever, like, such a simple way of being able to be on the same page. And if you say
Hmm.
no, I still have an in. Hey, I totally understand. Like, it's definitely not for everybody. And I'm glad you're not in a place where you need it, because ultimately
Right.
I'm trying to help people out of a situation. If you know
Hmm.
anyone that does, feel free to send them my way.
Wow.
Boom.
Just
You know what I'm
like
saying?
that.
Like, you're still in a great spot. I would say you're even in a better spot because this person
Mm.
respects you for not being on the receiving end of
Facts.
day.
Facts.
So
Honestly, like to this same point, what you were explaining is that initial interaction is the first touch point between you, your brand, and that potential prospect or individual. They were just a human at
yeah,
the end
yeah.
of the day. One industry that is got my attention, I'm very curious about how it works, is like like flea markets and stuff like that.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
mm,
In they're different from trade shows because at trade show at least the intent is mostly B2B. They're there to sell.
yeah,
So they're mostly attracting businesses to go there, and businesses would be the consumers. But
yeah.
at like a farmers market, that's I'm so curious. Like, how do they attract people? You know what I
You
mean?
mean
What
to
is
the
the
market or like to a particular stand?
like a first the market? I mean,
Mm,
obviously the stand they have to be in position. Have
mm,
to display themselves well, their
of
brand
course.
presence. Their vision, their product display, etc. That is ultimately what attracts the eyes. And brings people over. But as far as the whole market, the whole what is it called, the flea market idea in itself, I'm like,
Yeah,
how did they attract consumers? You know what I mean? Like, I'd be so
yeah.
confused. I just be wondering, man. I just be
That's a
wondering.
great question, actually.
I just be wondering,
And
man.
I've never been to a flea market. I have been to a farmer's market, but looking at
Mm,
both of them, I think it's one of two things. It's either that you're going to be able to get more value than you would be able to get somewhere else. And so there are some
mm,
people that are willing to, um, because here's the thing, right? Like, okay, you could go to Walmart and buy this thing, but you can drive another 20 minutes and you can buy it here cheaper. I
mm,
am not this kind of person, but there are people that would sacrifice their time for a bargain,
mm,
or they would
fair,
sacrifice convenience for a bargain. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
fair.
I'll go out of my way, but I'm going to get better deals. I'm going to spend less money, whatever that is. So I think that's one
Okay.
option, and that's probably more so the case with flea markets. And then the
Mm,
other is that there's a degree of value that you cannot capture somewhere else, or
mm,
that is you believe it's easier, or like it's easier for you to trust this medium over another medium. For example, if I go to Walmart and I buy organic vegetables, I just walk to the checkout fully believing and understanding that these are probably regular vegetables.
mm.
Like, these are probably completely genetically mod, like, these are probably not organic vegetables. Now, if I go to a farmer's market, it's
Mm,
the same thing. I don't know you in the same way that I don't know anybody at Walmart or the people that own Walmart. But if you're at a farmer's market and I walk up and you're wearing some overalls and you've got dirt under your fingernails
mm.
and you tell me this is organic, I believe you. I
Right, that's
believe you.
fair.
You could, I mean, this could all be an act for all we know. But
That's true.
for some reason, you know what I'm saying? I believe it. And so for that reason as well, I might be able to pay more because there's a higher perceived value. And
Mm,
people will pay for peace of mind. Like, if that's really a big deal for me that my food is organic, or that I believe that it's organic, and it's
shout
easier
out
for
to
me
Whole
to have
Foods.
that belief and trust that, shout out Whole Foods. Well, I guess it's really shout out Amazon.
Hey,
Crazy,
okay. Respect,
crazy,
respect. They doing what they gotta do. Acquisition.
crazy. I still
Do
can't
what they
get
gotta
over that.
do.
Um, Kevon says, I think with Walmart, instinctively, you know what's there. With the flea market, you just never know what you're going to get. And that's another
I,
thing, too. Like,
I
people will
think that's
also
a
pay
great
for
point.
novelty and surprise. Yeah, that's a great point.
That's a great
Um,
point.
and yeah, I mean, and that's the nuance of things, which is so interesting, which is like, for some people, shopping is a therapeutic event. Like for some
Mm.
people, shopping is a lot more about emotions than it is about utility or finding a solution to a problem. That's that might not make sense to me. It might not make sense to you, but for the folks that it makes sense to, if you can appeal to that in a way that suits them, they'll go out of their way for sure.
Mm.
But I also haven't like I have not been to a flea market. I don't know that
Right.
I'm the
Okay.
audience for a
Word.
flea market, so I
I
don't want to like
respect that.
speak too deep on it.
I got you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, we got to get back on topic soon, but we having fun. So, real quick. So I think for me, what the challenge is when I go to like a flea market, or not a flea market, or what is it called? I can't remember what the other one was called. Farmers market, or just like a general expo where businesses are gathering together, kind of like a networking event, but
Hmm.
more so for like vendors, like vendor event type of situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Every time I go into these places, I'm just curious. Is like, well, how are y'all distinguishing yourselves? I mean, it's more obvious at a farmer's market or at a flea market, but at a local scale, like how are y'all distinguishing yourselves from people who sell the same products?
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I think it would boil down to the experience that we're talking about, the
Right.
convenience
Yeah.
that we're able to provide, and going to the consumer. Like it's scarce in there. You feel me? Like sometimes if there's only 10 people who walk in and they don't know what they're looking for something similar. If you have someone with you that can go talk to these people, like that might that's a way to increase visibility. You know, because
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
extending you're extending your view through this person by going to the consumer.
Yeah.
Um, so let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. Honestly, um, everything that we've discussed so far with streamlining your process is making it as short as possible, addressing customer frustrations, and being anticipating for the post transaction and adding that additional support. Doing all of these things well is what I would coin as brand efficiency. You know, it creates a win-win situation for your customers as well as the business because
Hmm.
you're earning customer dollars and that increases your revenue and you're also gaining awareness. You're spreading brand awareness through the positive transaction experience you were able to deliver. So that's a win-win situation in my book. What do you think?
Agreed. Yeah. I think for a lot of folks, there's a gap between like content marketing and branding and their bottom
Mm,
line, and they don't know
that,
what fills the space and bridges the two. And I think you just hit it on the head. It's about recognizing that when you enter into a relationship with a
mm,
customer, which is when you acquire a customer, you are entering into a relationship with them that extends beyond the
period.
transfer of resources from their institution to yours.
Right.
It's much more than that. And oftentimes it's difficult for business owners to connect with that fact because I can measure whether or not you paid me. It is much harder for me to measure how much goodwill I have with you, how much trust you have in me. For many business owners, the way they
Mm,
put a finger on the pulse of those variables is their sales.
mm,
What they don't realize is being intentional about contributing to the health of those variables
mm.
plays a role in their sales.
Facts.
And so you cannot focus simply on the sales as a pulse check on whether or not people trust you.
Mm,
You should be working to get people to trust you. And as you do so effectively, you will get more sales. Most
mm,
people are just measuring the consequence as the cause or as the root, when in
mm.
reality, it is the consequence. It is a byproduct. And
Right.
they would be best serving themselves, focusing their attention elsewhere.
Mm. Hey man, hats off to you, bro. That's where it's at. A little
Hats off to
salt,
us,
boy.
dude. Hats off to us. Like, and I have to
Cooee.
say, bro, like, and this is one other thing that it's a little bit off, the main topic, but it's just so important. You know, like, bro, collaboration is so key, bro. Like, it's just so key, and I say it's key from a business perspective, but
Mm,
also just like as an entrepreneur from a like, bro, it feeds your soul. You know what I'm saying? Like,
mm,
I don't care how many people are watching this. I don't care how many people will ever watch this. I don't care if I
mm.
never get a customer from doing this. I'm
That's
thoroughly
right.
just enjoying connecting with another professional in their field.
Mm,
And if I went my entire startup journey without doing that, I don't know that I would still be on that journey because
Mm,
it can be hard, dude. Like it can be
mm,
hard. But when you're able to connect with people and you're able to pour into each other and give perspective that excites each other, you get so much of what you're looking to do as you grow your business while
mm,
you're growing your business. You get what I'm saying?
mm.
So
I
I have to
definitely
speak
get
on
that.
that because I think it's so important and valuable and often overlooked. I overlooked it for a very long time.
Mm,
And so
that's real.
I'm glad that I don't anymore.
Hey, respect. I mean, bro, I think it's really hard to underestimate the significance of collaboration because it's an integral part to everything
Yeah,
that is business and beyond that.
yeah,
From a persuasion standpoint, right? Let's talk about marketing for a moment. For us to come together, collaboration, just you and I, to create value for whomever consumes it, right? That gives us both additional credibility. You know what I mean? Because we're
yeah,
branding ourselves as experts in the field.
yeah.
Our collaboration is benefiting the consumer, right?
Hmm.
Because they're getting additional insights on
Yeah,
that could save them time, energy, money, and frustration, right?
yeah,
Absolutely lower their stress moving forward in business. You know, that's the byproduct of our collaboration.
yeah,
Their takeaway from, again, our collaboration, like a tree almost, or like a chain, you know, a chain reaction. Their takeaway, those insights, what we're able to help them with, they're going to share that with their friends. So now
yeah,
they're collaborating with us, you know
yeah.
what I mean, from
Wow, yeah,
collaborating with each other
wow,
to help other people by sharing their resource or just telling people what they learned, etc.
yeah,
And that, if you, once you build a team in business, collaboration. If you have friends that you talk to on a regular, collaboration.
yeah,
Support
yeah,
systems, collaboration. Frustration in connecting with trauma outside of psychology, everything, it's collaboration. It's an
yeah,
integral part of our being, and the ability to leverage the story and expertise of others on a personal and business perspective, or in a for personal and business youth or growth, is essential, bro. Like that's now going to be the fifth pillar of persuasion, is the ability to effectively collaborate with others. You know what I mean?
yeah.
um Integral, bro. It's
I
hard to
love that.
once you get into it, it's hard to underestimate the significance of
Oh yeah,
collaboration.
I remember when Kevon and I first met. Very shortly after that, we both kind of fell deeper into the scene of like co-working, and
Hmm.
I remember there was a solid like 2 week long period where Kevon was like, "Bro, like this just changed my whole life," and I was like, "I love to see it," and it was on the front end of it for me too. Like I think I only
Hmm.
had him beat as far as being intentional about that by like a couple of weeks or maybe a couple of months, and I had
Right.
felt the same way. And it's just, dude, there's an energetic element to it. There is there's just a human and a consciousness element to it that cannot be quantified, you know, and
Mm,
it's difficult to measure, but it's fully felt.
mm.
And I think
Wait,
that
one more
we
time.
have
Hold on. I'm sorry, bro.
mm,
You said, so. Would you say collaboration is difficult to measure,
but it's
but it
fully
can be felt,
felt. Yes, it's
fully
fully
felt?
felt.
Ooh,
And it's I
man,
think that's
that's
the part
powerful.
of business that is easy to overlook and underestimate, which is that it's like when it comes to money, right? Money is nothing but a measurement of value. But so many of us are deluded into believing that the money itself is valuable. And in the same way, I think that the health of our businesses is a reflection of the health of our relationships and the health
Mm,
of the value that we're looking to provide. But too
come
many
on
of
now.
us believe that the value is found in our numbers. Value
Mm,
is in the KPI being 7 instead of 6. No, 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 no. That's like saying that when you go and measure your heart rate, the 140 BPM is what's keeping you alive.
mm,
No, your heart is keeping you alive, and the 140 is how we measure how well it's doing that. And I think it's a
mm.
very similar kind of thing. Come on, said my man making me feel
I
high.
see that.
And I don't even smoke. He's spitting straight fire. I appreciate you, man. I'm glad I could do that. Oh, that's so good,
Facts,
man.
facts, 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 facts.
I love that. But yeah, I
That's
think we
next
just,
level.
and I
Well,
feel like we're seeing a lot
man.
more of this in this era
Mm,
now where like we're really tapping into or recognizing the need to tap into the relational side and the emotional side of business.
mm,
And I wish I had done that a lot sooner. I wish I'd known to. But I think and this even ties it all together, like business is an extension of personal development. And
mm.
as you develop as a person, like your ability to connect in business and manage business and grow in business grows with you. And that's one of the biggest differentiating qualities between being an entrepreneur and being an employee is that when you are an employee, you can work in your job as the same person for 20 years and you'll probably still have a job. But as an entrepreneur, if you do not develop over that period of time, your business will fail and it will be because
Mm.
of you. It'll be because of your person. You feel me? And so there's a lot of responsibility there and there's a lot of emotional nuances and tie-ins and a lot of identity emotional tie-ins and tie-ins of your consciousness. And these are the kind of things that we have to pay attention to when we're dealing with ourselves, but also when we're dealing with each other.
Mm. Man, that's the first thing that came to my brain was like an infinities, the loop, the infinity loop.
Yeah.
So you have one side is the branding. That's an
hmm
extension of personal development and how that reflects the relationships that you develop in business as a business through your business, right?
Yeah.
That's three-dimensional there. The connection point is going to be like a transaction, right? That's going to be
Yeah.
proof that the growth that your experiences is adding value to others, that it's making sense,
Yeah.
that it works. This in the context of business, right? And then you have marketing, which is how you share your growth with the
Mm-hmm.
world. And that could be scale in terms of size of company. That could be scale in terms of additional value delivered through your
Oh,
services.
wow.
That could be scale in terms of human capital and influence. How it's marketed, all of that information is what brings it back to the sale. So the sale is going to be like that connection point to turn
Right.
over from your brand and your marketing. And this is kind of like the
Brings
infinity
you
loop
into,
of
bro,
business
I
development.
love the way you just frame that because it just makes it so personal. Like I have to revisit what you just said.
Mm,
Marketing is your way and how you go about sharing your growth with the world.
mm,
I just feel like that's so profound, dude, because even as like you said, like, we're constantly as business owners, we're developing new skill sets and we're developing additional value propositions and value offers. And all of that means nothing if we cannot find a way to communicate it that is articulating it correctly, but also that will be received by the people that need it most. And it's like the packaging, it's like, how do
right.
we
Hmm.
package this together in a way that's palatable to you? Because we know that we're doing you a disservice if we don't make it appealing to you.
Mm,
But that's really coming from a heart of servitude. The flip
right.
side of that is if we were just looking to make a sale. And I think
Hmm.
that's like the other end of what we were referencing, which is like being so numbers driven and ignoring the relational element to business. It's not
Mm,
an either or. They're both a continuum. It's always
right.
a question of how relational are you and also how logistical are you.
Hmm.
But those two things coexist. I love the
Right.
way you just framed that. I feel like that was so profound.
And that is the inspiration behind the perfect brand synergy. But we'll get into that
Mm,
much further,
mm. We'll
much
save
further
that. We'll
down
save
the
that for
line.
folks, man. And I just want to take this moment to kind of just do a little bit of foreshadowing, guys. We have so much in store to share, and like I don't want to spoil it, but like I'm just so excited because this is kind of the front end of a new journey for me as far as
Mm,
taking full ownership of the value and the experience that I've picked up in my career up until this point. And you know, I just love that I have the opportunity to share that with people and to meet people like yourself that have that same passion. And I have to give you props and everyone, like, I want everyone to know this. Like, bro, Corey is one of the most like giving, like, bro, you have such a servant's heart. You feel me?
Mm,
And I think a lot of people can hear that and interpret it in a certain kind of way. But for me, what that means is like you really care about people, and it shows. It shows, and I know that it's true because it shows when no one is looking. You get what I'm saying? Like,
mm,
that's just who you are, and it's who
mm,
you've been before I met you. And
mm,
it didn't change when we met. It was just I was now a recipient of that energy and that intention.
mm.
And I respect the hell out of you for that, man. So I have to give you your dues for that.
Ah, man, respect, bro, respect, man. I mean, it's a two-way street. Like I said, man, it's the growth. You know, how can you share it with others? The answer is collaboration.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm,
How I can't speak anything further than that. Literally what you're experiencing is the growth of me developing myself. Like we said, that
mm,
infinity loop, you know, that we'll call it the champion infinity loop or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. I've been working on me, you know what I mean? I've been trying to figure out how to best support the people that I collaborate with. How do I be an effective team player? You
Yeah.
know, how do I be how do I navigate the space of working with others in terms of
Yeah.
content, in terms of live events, in terms of this, in terms of that, with the intent to create a grander impact that doesn't overshadow the other person. You know, you're the
Yeah.
recipient of my growth. This is how it's been packaged together, and the changeover is this. This is the product of the
Yeah.
changeover. You know what I mean? If we're keeping it in the same context of like branding, personal development, relationship, reflection of growth, marketing, how it's packaged, and you share that growth with the world. The sale in this particular situation is this product that we've created together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And same thing for you, bro. You've done your due diligence. Like you said, you've been in the game for some time. So what you've learned, you're able to bring to the table, and I'm learning a lot from you as well because I don't focus solely on I don't focus on video marketing
Right.
content.
Yeah.
So I'm gaining extra insight, and I'm able to build off of the growth that you've shared with me, collaboration. You see what I'm saying? Like, bro,
Yeah.
it's just I can't
It's
separate
an
it.
all around enriching experience. It's really like the
Yes,
definition
sir.
of win-win. And I think that for me, like, that
Mm,
is the best business. The best business is when it's a win-win. And
mm,
you know, I think a lot of business owners can be um they can
selfish.
believe that it's a zero sum game. That for
Mm,
me to get one, if you have one, it means that you have to have zero. And that is just not
mm.
the case. It's
Right.
it's really not there there's more to come into it than there is. It's not a closed loop, you know?
There you
And
go.
I think this is a perfect example, man.
Facts, facts, facts. Hey man, I'm just as grateful, man. Reciprocity, big dog. Gratitude is equally shared.
Bro,
Again, like same context, like we're talking about. Collaboration is effective in life and in business. Ultimately, is your ability to build relationships with others. The healthier, the better. The closer you can meet that intent to build a healthy relationship, the better off it's going to be for your sales, for your growth, for your continued existence, and having positive memories that just enrich your soul, bro. Like big facts.
yeah, yeah.
So, Dan, let's go ahead and wrap this up, man. We could
I
definitely
agree.
flow for another six
Oh,
hours,
no,
bro.
I'm
We're
already
nasty
knowing.
with it. All right, so we're going to finish this up with the keys of persuasion. Okay, so we started with customer frustration. We defined what that was and some key elements. Transacting ghost, no confusion and lack of clarity in the sales pipeline, and just overall poor delivery. You know what I
Mm,
mean on the service. And then that follow up gotta be clutch, man, and focusing on the intent to build a healthy relationship with your consumers. Those are the keys, some of the keys that we addressed. And obviously, whoever's listening to it heard everything up until this point, so we just gonna move forward.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Hey, well, we want to
now we're
reframe it for sure.
Fact. So now we're getting into the marketing part, and we're going to close off with that and some closing remarks. So, in order for us in business, okay, to make sure that our conversion ratio, talking metrics now, we're talking logic now, logistics, is closer to where we want to be, we have to understand the core elements of persuasion and how to effectively move people to a decision.
Mm,
So the core, the four elements of persuasion, the four keys of persuasion that I've come to in my experience and understanding through reading and everything
mm,
are emotion. You got to tap into some form of emotion, right?
mm.
Emotion is what moves people. Feeling is just kind of the after effect. If
Mm,
I'm happy, then I'm gonna feel good. So
mm.
if I'm able to tap into that emotion of happiness through my marketing, then the feeling is gonna come. You're gonna feel some type of way, hopefully positive. If I do everything else correctly, then you're gonna feel good about pursuing me to do business with, as a
Yeah.
consumer or as another company. The second one is gonna be let me go back to my notes because we've been going fire. The second one definitely has to be some type of lead, a lead in the sense of you're starting something, you're initiating something, right? So it could be a question, it could be an image, it could be a story. You need something to attract people, and then you build on it with an emotion. Like a story building, story branding, and then you want to be able to offer a solution to them, right? And the last thing that we want to do is to create a transformation. A
Mm,
transformation could be as practical, as simple as seeing a piece of content, felt good about it, followed up. We don't even
mm.
have to take it all the way to sales yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that in itself is a transformation. You were able to transmute your product or service, and they were able to go from not knowing who you are to now seeing the value in what you provide.
Yeah.
That in itself is a transformation. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree with that. And I think, that is probably framed in a couple of different ways for folks, but I think um
Fun
that's not
idea.
an uncommon concept, like,
Mm,
this is the same as just when you're
right.
dragging a lead from one pipeline stage to the next. I
Yeah.
think what you're alluding to is that is in itself a whole transformation. It's more than just a status. It's an
Right.
actual mental shift or emotional
Mm-hmm.
shift that has occurred in
Mm-hmm.
in your customer. And so there are some things that you want to keep in mind about that. But I love that, like, and I love the structure to it because it really just it circles back full circle to the beginning. It helps
Yeah.
you get a clear understanding of the model within which frustration can be born. And
Mm,
when you have those joints, when you have those
right.
connection areas that you can really look at and evaluate, it becomes a lot less overwhelming and you can go into it a lot more surgically and intentionally and say, okay, this is what we're going to look for and this is where we're going to look.
Mm. So tell me, how does that look in your business? If you could frame it, how do you use the four elements, the four keys of persuasion: a lead, connecting with emotion, knowing that you have the solution, and then ultimately leading people to a transformation. What does that look like in your business?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that my business and my area of expertise provides to business owners is leverage, right? And
Mm,
so this is a very easy concept to understand in that I can only be in one place at once, but
mm,
right now I'm not. Right now I'm
right.
in here, there, and wherever there is for everybody that's
Facts.
watching, right?
Facts.
And so double that leverage or add on to that leverage the fact that right now I'm here right now. But
Hmm.
after we're done with this, I will be here, not right now. I will be here
Right.
for all right nows moving forward once I share it in that way. And so
Mm,
those two leverage opportunities allow those elements and those moments that you just shared to begin
Mm-hmm.
to happen at scale. But it's not just
Mm,
about volume, it's also about consistency. It's about the fact
mm,
that I'm able to give business owners or people in my industry and my industry itself is able to give business owners a means of nurturing their leads even when they don't want to. It's
mm.
able to it gives them a way of expressing their understanding of the situation that someone's in without having that conversation with them.
Mm.
And so we allow them to reclaim their energy,
Wow.
keep their focus on the things that are really going to move the needle in their business,
Mm.
and still grow their business.
Mm. That's dope.
It's like trifold because they're focusing on the things that are going to take it to the next level. We're helping sustain the level that it's at and
Mm.
grow it from there because they can do more of what they were doing before.
Damn, that's a
Maybe in a day
powerful.
before you could have 10 one-on-ones, and that's because
Mm.
you an animal. With content, what people don't realize is it's not just you're putting out content and people are looking at it. You're
Mm.
having that many one-on-ones.
Mm.
Now, when you up the volume, there's more opportunity for misalignment because now instead of me actually having a face-to-face conversation with you, if I start getting 10,000 impressions on this same piece of content, it's like me going to Costco and just having that conversation with everybody. Well, there's going to be a
Mm.
lot of people at Costco that are just like, dude, who are like I don't care. Like I'm literally not even the person that I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
But the beautiful thing about that is the reason you wouldn't go to Costco and do that is because it would take your energy and your time. And it would take
Mm.
your energy and your time every single time you went to Costco. When you make
That's real.
content, it takes your energy and your time once.
Mm.
And so you can take that more buckshot approach because it doesn't matter if you're speaking to 10 people or 10,000, the price, the barrier to entry was the same. And
Mm.
so we're able to help apply that leverage for business owners. So it's a
That's
lot
dope.
of just doing that at volume. But I
Mm.
would say the other element is it's also helping to bridge that gap where previously you would need to have that conversation with someone. You can start to put someone into that different mental state or that different emotional state
Mm.
without expending your energy more than once.
That's
I
real.
can aggravate your understanding of your own problem simply because you came across something that I said 10 days ago.
Right.
But
Damn, that's
now,
real.
if I have a conversation with you, instead of that conversation being about how I can aggravate your problem and show you that you have one,
Mm.
you're already at step two.
Damn.
So
Nah,
now
that
we're
makes
coming
sense though.
into it ahead of the game. You feel me? So I would say like
Mm.
that's the biggest fit is
That's
like
fire.
how can we get it to the point to where like you and I, if we were doing business together, you don't need me to actually be on the phone with you or in person with you to tell you, hey, you need to be making content. Whether you
Right.
get that feeling or that understanding in person or online is it's going to be the same understanding that we're not going to be able to go back from. Now you know,
Mm.
now you're aware, you can't unsnap the wristband, so to speak, or the rubber band.
I guess yeah, I
Now
feel you.
you might want or need to be sitting across the table from me when you write me a check for $10,000, right?
Facts,
Because you want
facts,
to feel
facts.
my energy. You want to see if I'm over here licking my lips. You know what I'm saying? Like you want to feel me out. And so when it comes to the leverage, what we
Mm.
allow to be the ones to have is for them to show up for the rooms have to be in. If you
Mm.
have to have me on the other side of the table when you write that check, I can be there now because I'm still
Mm.
there having that initial conversation with you. It's just not me. It's not active energy investment or time investment.
Mm. That's solid, bro. That's solid. Mm.
And so in that way, like the content goes a lot deeper than people expect. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just about getting a couple of kikis and getting the views and whatever that is. It's about claiming a higher leverage opportunity for your time and your energy.
Mm. That's a powerful connection point, man. Love that. Love that.
I
Nah,
just
that
want
was
to give props to Mckenzie. She said, "Cheers
that's
to this
funny.
fire energy exchange. This is
Man,
truly
respect,
powerful.
respect,
Thank you.
respect.
Thank you for rocking with us, Mckenzie. We
Yeah,
appreciate you."
big facts, big facts. All right, so I guess so for me, I'm gonna take a technical approach.
Okay.
So I like to lead with um man, it's tough. It's tough for a service for creative professionals, man. When you do copywriting and content writing, because there's like a whole
Mm,
you know what I mean, a whole world
mm,
out there.
mhm,
So kind of like we talked about before, I like to focus on segmenting and focusing on specific products, and marketing in that way to connect to
mm.
a specific pain point um, that consumers are experiencing, and then making that emotional connection. Like you coached me on is understanding the pain points of the customer. The
Mm.
clearer you can speak to that and align the outcome with your solution that you can provide, the the shorter the less dissonance that
Yeah,
they
it's less
experience in their
friction.
brain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's easier for them to make that the connection and decision to move forward in business with you, man. So that's where it's at for me, man. That was immaculate, by
I
the way.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. And at the end of the day, like
Oh,
it's not ever a question of, like we were saying earlier, like they exist on continuums. It's never a question of
mm,
emotional appeal or logical appeal. It's always a
right.
question of how much emotional appeal and understanding and how much logical. And so when we're looking at the approaches, like it's just not a one takes all. It's just
Mm,
informed by your customer. For some
mm,
folks and for some decisions, the logic and the technicalities are going to be of a higher importance and of a higher impact than the emotional appeal and the emotional intention. And so I think that's a big part of our job, particularly when it comes to marketing, is being
mm,
able to get a finger on the pulse of, okay, who is this for and what is the most important to them, right?
mm,
If I'm selling a product that's designed for parents and it's meant to help them with their kids, they are going to be more on the emotional side than if I'm selling a product that helps CTOs better track their um, spread rates. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Like it's just going to be very
right,
different. And so
right.
we have to get an understanding of what that difference is so that we can speak in their language. And
Mm.
that's very contextual.
Nah, that makes sense for sure. Definitely, especially when it comes to like positioning statements and how you segue between different phases in your marketing campaign.
Yeah.
It's super important, man, for sure. Ah, man, I feel good. How you feel?
I feel amazing, dude. And bro, we get on flames, bro, and we'll be like, yo, bro, so quick little 60-minute session. Next thing we know, 190 minutes in, we're like, oh shoot.
Facts, facts,
No, I
facts.
love it. I love it because
That's awesome, man.
I hope that folks feel the passion, and it's not just the passion for but for sharing, although obviously we're very passionate about that, but we're also just passionate about what we do, and I think that's why I never trip about growth or success, because I'm obsessed about what
Mm,
we do. And if I wasn't, I couldn't sit here and talk to you for an hour and 38 minutes about it. I just
facts,
wouldn't be able to,
facts.
especially without a script. Like, a lot, we freestyle this,
Yeah.
but it's because we're coming into it that informed and that curious
Mm.
and that knowledgeable. So I hope that folks connect with that.
Absolutely, man. All right, so we're gonna open the floor officially for questions. If y'all have
Yeah, yeah.
questions about, reducing customer frustrations, if you have an experience of a positive or negative, if you have a positive or negative experience when it comes to interacting with another business as a consumer or B2B, let's go ahead and talk about it. Put that question in there, put that that experience in there. We're definitely open to sharing our perspective on the matter. Um,
Dude,
so, brother, man.
one of the things I love about Kivon is that he never leaves a room without asking questions, and I so respect that. He says it isn't about today's topic, but he does have a question. Let's hear it,
Oh,
bro. I would like
yeah,
to
go
hear
ahead,
that.
man. What's up?
I would very much like to hear that.
Same.
That's awesome, man. But yeah, I think so. One of the things that, because I mentioned this earlier, how right now I'm going through that frustration with a business. And
Mm-hmm.
it really, like, it's crazy because we contextualized it without even knowing the story, which is
Mm,
the biggest frustration for me is that there are some things that are happening differently than I was informed they would. And
mm-hmm.
then there are some things that I was never informed about. And so I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, and the biggest arena for this is the communication. And I think
Mm,
communication is a particularly dangerous arena, um, for those things to be true in, because it's it is the cheapest way of
mm,
creating trust. And so if
mm.
you don't do that, your customer begins to wonder, if you can't be intentional about the cheapest way of building good rapport with me, then how do you run your business? All right, so we got
Mm.
Kivon's question, and he says, thoughts on Wendy's branding approach versus the traditional professional branding approach on social media. Wendy's will roast you. Other companies will keep it 100% professional. I put quotes around professional since that's an interpretation. I'm going to let you start with this, branding expert Corey.
Oh man, Wendy's would definitely roast you. Um, I'm not too familiar with Wendy's roasting tactics, to be completely
Bro,
honest with
you have to go onto Wendy's Twitter, dog. You
you. I don't
have to
have a
go onto
Twitter.
Wendy's Twitter, bro. Okay, make a Twitter just to do it because it's hilarious. Um,
What is going
Bro,
on with Wendy's?
Wendy's, like, so you, like, if you could tweet on, like, you could make a tweet that had a picture of some, like, McDonald's nuggets and be like, dude, like, oh, this made my stomach hurt. And Wendy's will respond to your tweet and be like, that's what you get for going to McDonald's. It's so funny, bro. Like, they do not play. They be hunting folks. And bro, it'll be people with like 2 followers, bro. Like, it's not even like they're not even famous or anything, but Wendy's be finding them. Um,
I think that's very clever. The way that you
I
explain it to me,
agree. I
I think that's
agree.
extremely clever,
I
especially
totally
when it
agree.
comes to it's a non-traditional way to create brand awareness, to make a comparison between competitors, right? As well as creating a memory with a stranger. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Just based on what you share with me, those are my immediate takeaways.
Yeah.
I think it could be very effective because it's lighthearted,
Yeah.
And if I'm someone with a small follower or small following count, and I'm noticed by Wendy's, you know what I mean, and I'm now laughing with them, there's
Yeah.
just based on this interaction, I'm more likely to think of Wendy's as someone who is someone who I want to do business with. You know
Yeah.
what I
You're almost
mean?
looking at them like a friend
Like,
now, in a way.
yeah, because when you come, if you tweet at McDonald's and they don't respond, and then you got a competitor saying that's what you get, you can be like, damn, bro, now I'm top of mind if I'm Wendy's, because I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
Wendy's just roasted me. I'm gonna go tell all my friends how Wendy's roasted me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're gonna laugh about it, and then we probably gonna go get some Wendy's because that McDonald's nugget did actually make my stomach
Right.
hurt. So I
I
think it's I
think
think it's a very non-traditional and clever tactic, just based on the limited information that I've received. I want to
so.
keep
Then
that.
here's a question. I guess on the flip side, because I know Kevon, and he tends to enjoy contrarian perspectives.
Nice.
Um, what would you say is the potential risk or the potential drawback of taking that kind of a non-traditional approach?
Um, that depends. I'm not in their company, so
Yeah.
I'm speaking from an outside perspective based on the limited information I have. So that really depends on how well they know their market.
Hmm.
If they understand that their market, if they had some type of research, some type of data to let them know, like, hey, humor is a big thing right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, then there's a potential barrier where you can say the reward are higher than the risk. But
Yeah.
obviously, people are going to be people at the end of the day, and just like Kavan said, um, if people take offense to it, you know what I mean, and they're salty, then they could use that as ammunition to tarnish the reputation of Wendy's.
Yeah.
So if that becomes the latter, as in the majority versus the people who are think it's funny, then they could wind up losing business, and that campaign now loses its effectiveness. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because even though they're increasing their visibility and touch points, they're also turning business away, which is not
So
which
I
is not
I I
smart.
I totally agree. I think that you fall into one of two buckets as a
Hmm.
business. And even as a person, right? If we're looking at a business as having its own personality type, then let's really
Right.
contextualize that.
Fair.
I think you're either trying to make the entire world happy, or you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to make your segment happy at the expense of anyone else's comfort or happiness. And that's not
Mm,
to say that you are trying to diminish other people's comfort or happiness. You just have a primary concern that is your segment. For example,
fair.
um, Slim Jim, right? So Slim Jim has a very similar kind of social media presence. Like they post memes on their Instagram account that are hilarious. Like they're in there. So Slim Jim is contrarian, even just from a product perspective, because it's literally a bar of meat, right? And so you can imagine the immediate, like you can immediately imagine who their opposition would be or who might be offended by them, which would be like people that
The
don't
ops.
condone. Right. You could immediately see that Slim Jim's ops would be like people that don't condone the consumption of meat products, and they are like probably the worst. It's literally a bar of meat. Slim Jim will never try and be anything else. Slim Jim is not
Mm,
going to try and make a Beyond Jim. They're not going to try and make a Slim Bean Jim. You feel me? They're going to make Slim Jim, and they're going to embody a personality type as a business and as a brand that is reflective of that commitment and everything that it comes with. Um,
mm-hmm.
same with and I think here's the thing: every brand, to an extent, and there are some nuances here and some exceptions, but every brand is, whether they choose to or not, like taking a stand against something and putting themselves in at a risk of potentially offending someone. Right? Let's look at Monster. Let's look at Red Bull. I love referencing these guys just because they're so,
Yeah.
like,
Nasty with
people
it.
are die-hard fans of Red Bull and Monster. So Red Bull goes around the world and sponsors these events where people do crazy stuff. They'll, ride a dirt bike off of a ramp that goes into a canyon and then parachute off of it, whatever. That's great. That's cool. That's awesome. And everyone that loves that kind of stuff loves it. Immediately, they are alienating a segment of people in the world who might have had a loved one that got injured or killed doing something like that
I see what you're saying.
because it's painful for them. That has
Insensitive.
nothing to do with their intentions. That has nothing to do with whatever that is. It's just the fact that they have a negative association to what the brand has decided to do in the segment that the brand has decided to serve.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that that is the end of the world to be alienating a segment of the population because it's an inevitability. You can't help it
Hey man, you
unless
can't please everybody. Period.
you
Like at the
can't.
end of
And
the
I don't
day.
think you should, because it's much better for you to have 2% of the market segment that will give you their last dollar, so to speak, than it is to
Mm-hmm.
have 100% of the market segment that is on the fence about you, doesn't care about you either way. They're completely neutral.
Mm.
And so I think if you can find the ways of, like you said, more often than not, connecting
Right.
with your segment of the marketplace that you understand in a way that they see positively more often than negatively, I think you're winning, whatever that looks
Mm.
like. Oh,
Nah, you're
nice.
absolutely
I'm
right.
seeing oh yeah, it was Long Boys. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So Kevon was shedding some light on the Slim Jim story. He said that there was a teenager that had a Slim Jim themed page that had more followers than theirs. So they reached out and hired him as their social media manager.
Yeah, I mean that's a smart
Wow,
play. I mean that
that's amazing.
so on context what we're talking about. So that was a smart move of staying on brand, right?
Yeah,
In the present space of marketing, right? They were able to bring their marketing efforts closer to the present and engage
Yeah.
with the audience that is pretty much the majority of the audience. So if they hired this gentleman or this team to create more awareness with the people that they served, and if the
Yeah.
synergy is there, we make content about Slim Jims. I'm a Slim Jim company. We make a merger. Two businesses come together and create an ecosystem that works.
Yeah.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win situation. That's called
It
brand
goes back to
efficiency.
the collaboration.
Hmm.
It does. And Mckenzie asked, she said, so discerning what kind of audience you attract, you base your marketing on that, just like you made examples on Slim Jim and Wendy's.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if you don't, what ends up happening is you have, so as soon as a product is created, right? You have you ever heard the phrase or the saying that like for every problem there is a solution, right? As
Hmm.
soon as a problem exists in the world, a solution exists as well, and it's our job to bridge the gap. Same thing with
Hmm.
a product or a service. As soon as you create a product or a service, there is a segment of the population that exists in the world that is the perfect fit for it. And
Right.
between the two. Now, if you try to bridge the gap without a thorough understanding of who those people are, you will speak your language to them, but they will hear it
Mm.
through their ears and they won't connect with it.
Right.
If I am trying to sell a luxury product on the basis that it's cute and funsy, you know what I'm saying? But I want to sell it to people that are interested in luxury products, they're going to speak a very different language, right? If I
Right.
look at the majority of the consumers of luxury goods, I might find that their tastes tend to be more minimalist and they tend to be
Hmm.
less tonal or less
Hmm.
reduced in saturation of colors. And so
Hmm.
I have to package whatever it is that I'm looking to offer to cater to who they are, not who I think they are or who I am. Because at
Hmm.
the end of the day, everything about what I'm building is for them, and
Right.
they are going to show me how close I got to nailing that through sales, through engagement, through relationship. So I
Hmm.
would say that is the best, like when it comes to informing your marketing, that is your best option,
Right.
because that's who you're building it for.
Hmm. I absolutely agree. In terms of, I'm going to use the word noise. You know,
Mm,
if you if your audience doesn't like loud in your face type of content,
hmm.
if their preference is more muted, then you should definitely tailor your content to
Yeah,
acquiesce to their preferences. You know, that's what we'll talk about later on when it comes to, following your your ideal customer cadence as far as their consumption behavior and their buying decisions.
yeah.
So an example of this is luxury vehicles. How often do you see a luxury vehicle and they're all over the place and going crazy? Most of the time, when I see a nice vehicle like a I don't even think I ever seen a Ferrari commercial. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
I don't
right,
think I've
right,
ever seen one of those. But
right.
that just goes to show their customers might not be responsive to that type of content. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I saw,
They
you might have seen these posts on like some business motivation accounts. They'll say Lamborghini doesn't have commercials. And when someone
Right.
asked them about it, they said that the reason they don't is because the people that buy Lamborghinis are not sitting around watching TV.
There you go. That's exactly.
Yeah.
It's a great point. So she said, so I'm just starting out or starting to find out who my audience is. It says, so I'm seeing what works and what they are not really attracted to. Yeah. So a good concept to emulate would be if you don't have a clear idea of who your audience is in terms of the market and what they respond to, I would encourage maybe finding one or two influencers and or companies with an audience
Hmm.
that is the most similar to who you intend to serve, and study their content, and
Yeah.
see how their reels are performing and what are they doing, and kind of like what we were saying on our live before, if they're doing a lot of dancey stuff, you know what I mean, then the sell might be fun. You might not have to dance. You might have to portray that your business is fun to interact with. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And in a
That
different way, in a way that's more suitable
exactly.
to you. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can remain authentic. But that's
Yeah.
another way to leverage the concept of collaboration by emulating, not copying, but
Yeah.
emulating and then
And
authenticating
and
the concept
ultimately,
that
like, I
works.
think that's a good place to start, like,
Hmm.
because you mentioned, like, just starting out, like,
Yeah.
you have to have some basis upon which your decisions are informed. But one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got about that, I was telling someone, I was like, yeah, I don't know what they would want, right? I have this avatar in mind, but I don't know what's most important to them, whatever, this, that.
Hmm.
Bro, quickest, smallest piece of advice I ever got that had the largest impact. One of my guys that owns a marketing agency, I was telling that to him, and he said, "So why don't you ask them?" And I was like, "Oh." And so a big part of what informed, like, kind of my initial launch and plan was just surveying. Like, let me
Hmm.
reach out to the kind of people that I have in my mind that I think I
Yep.
would like to work with, and
Yep.
ask them questions that will, number one, inform whether or not I will actually want to work with them. Because turns
Hmm.
out, right? No offense to any realtors, but I used to think that I really wanted to work with realtors and real estate agents.
Hmm.
And then I did. And I realized that I tend to not really like working with them all that much.
Yep.
So
Mm.
if I had gone about surveying before I started working with them, I think I would have realized that a bit sooner.
Right.
So number one, it helps you understand if you really want to work with the people that you think you want to work with. Number
True.
two, they will tell you what they want. You go to someone, you
Facts.
say, "Hey, I have a product, I have a service. It's meant for people like you," and just ask them, "Hey, would you be willing to hop on a marketing survey call?" 9 times out of
Hmm.
10, people will say yes, and they'll tell you, "Yeah, I care about this. I want it this quick. I don't care about that as much. Wouldn't make much of a difference." And that way,
Hmm.
you're able to go into it, putting intention into the things that matter most to them, and
Hmm.
cutting your intention and energy away from the things that don't. And that's especially important as a startup that's bootstrapping, because you have such
Facts.
limited resources. You really can't afford to waste money on things that are not going to make a world of difference for your early customers. It just doesn't make
Right.
sense. It's not efficient.
Yep. Also known as an open or closed beta, creating a MVP, a minimum viable product, or a sample but functional version of what you want to sell, and then gathering real
Mm-hmm.
time feedback from the consumers that you intend to
Oh,
serve.
yo,
Yeah, that's right.
Corey, I
But we
just feel
gotta
like our
we
dynamic is so, like, it's so full circle, dude. I'm sorry.
Ah,
I just have to acknowledge it real quick, because one thing I didn't appreciate as thoroughly until just now was that when you provide that additional context, you're also giving people a basis of exploration outside of what we say. So, like,
mm,
if Mckenzie wants to go and learn more about what developing an MVP looks like, or what uh how to run a closed and open beta, right? She wouldn't have been able to like, she didn't have that terminology before you added that context. So I
I
appreciate
see.
you for that, because I think that's really empowering.
Facts, man. Man, this has been super dope. Um, dang, where'd you go, dog? I don't know where you went. But this has been phenomenal. I'm not sure where the homie just went. But we is this man did a Houdini on me, dog. You magician. But either way, the system is saying we have 2 minutes left. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. On behalf of myself and Rav, he represents Moguls HQ. I represent Champion Circle Enterprise. We are absolutely thankful and grateful for your time that you decided to share it with us, and we hope that you enjoyed this first episode. The next episode will be releasing very soon. Let me see. It's going to take too long for me to get the calendar going, so y'all stay tuned for the content. And have a blessed day. He is back. We have 1 minute and
Yeah,
25 seconds left.
I don't know
So if he
what
if he
happened,
want to
bro.
drop his closing remarks, he's totally fine to do so. I just said thank you and everything.
Oh, sweet. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know what happened. But yo, thank you guys so much for kicking it with us. And I know that you guys got value out of it, and I would love to know what was the most profound and what was the most impactful. So you can
Hmm.
connect with me on LinkedIn, Josh Kennedy, Instagram at Ravage the Game. Those are probably going to be the two mediums that I'm most likely to actually be able to connect with you. But
Hmm.
yeah, definitely join us for the rest of the series. Everyone that registered for this episode is going to be auto enrolled for the next one as well. So you'll have the access, you'll get entered into the email sequence, just so that you can be aware of any changes and how to actually access it. But yeah, this has been a great series, and we're on episode 1. So we hope that you stick with us and see it through to the end. And beyond that, just thank you. Keep doing your thing. I don't know where you're at, but I'm proud of you. Keep going, and we'll see you next time.
September the 8th. That's the date right there. September the 8th. And we will catch y'all on the horizon. That's my wife calling. I love y'all.
All right,
Peace out for
folks,
now.
do your
Thank
thing.